Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Northern Lights Trade Show Tourism Session. I'd like to welcome our sponsor, Representative Jim Igloliorte, to do a few moments of presentation.
Good morning, everybody. No need to applaud. My name is Jim Igloliorte. I'm with Nunatsiavut group of companies. We're a diamond sponsor and very proud to be part of introducing this aspect of Nunatsiavut government's involvement in tourism. I'm here mostly to talk about one of our 10 or 11 lines of business, and for a very few moments I'm going to show you what it's like to live and work in the base camp operation we have, which is very near and just at the southern border of the national park. The park is called Tungat Mountains National Park, and of course you may know that the mountains and the whole region is named after one of the spirits there, the spirits of the animals, the spirits that live in the mountains. And as somebody has said this morning in their sessions, when you get in the hollow at 150 kilometer per hour winds, you know that somebody's mad at you. And that has happened with us a couple of times over the last few years we've been there. The base camp for the national park operations is an Inuit-owned operation, an Inuit business. And we operate just like those of you who operate businesses in a very narrow time frame. And if you can imagine trying to make an aspect of our business financially viable in 8 to 10 weeks a year, welcome to our world as well, just like the mining companies have stated a few minutes ago. In order to get to the base camp, which is the picture with the hill on the side there, you can see where the tents and the houses and the research station is. You leave the northernmost community in Labrador, Inuk community of 12 to 1,500 people called Nain. You fly north to an old, presently existing and operating American and Canadian base from the DEW line system by Twin Otters. This is a company that we're partnering with, Air Labrador, and when you're there, enjoy yourself in another one of our partnership operations is the helicopter companies. You'll sleep sometimes in these soft tents, which blew away last summer after a huge windstorm, but there are also other beautiful compensatory kinds of benefits for being up there. And you can see that the land is absolutely awe-inspiring. You can understand why Inuit today still believe that there are spirits, and they're both good spirits, and they can sometimes be a little bit challenging spirits as well when the weather turns. This is one of the sites showing the route from the Labrador side into the Nunavik side, the route between Labrador over to through George River to George River in Nunavik. Inuit actually named this lake Windex Lake because of the color. It's a glacial lake, of course, and the unique color when you fly over it is absolutely stunning. And when they saw it, it completely reminded them of that corporation. And naturally, you'll enjoy yourself when you come to our base camp, and the range of wildlife that you'll see is absolutely phenomenal. In just a moment, I'll be handing it over to Chris to continue with his introductions of the speakers, but we do have a very short little video to show you as well. I'll give you a taste of what the base camp is like.
Thank you very much for that video. That's a very inspiring start to our session today on tourism. My name is Chris Grosset. I'm a senior consultant with Outlook Consulting, and it's my pleasure today to introduce you to our distinguished panel of speakers. Ms. Colleen Dupuis from Nunavut Tourism, the Honorable Mr. Johannes Lampe, Minister of Culture, Recreation and Tourism for the Nunatsiavut government, and Ms. Catherine Pinard from the Kativik Regional Government. We're going to hear presentations from each of our speakers and hold questions until the end of all the presentations, at which time I'll invite you to come to the microphones in the center and we'll take your questions for the panel. I'd like to begin by welcoming our first presenter, Ms. Colleen Dupuis, the Chief Executive Officer of Nunavut Tourism. Ms. Dupuis has been the CEO of Nunavut Tourism since August 2009, and she has been active in tourism and economic development in Nunavut and Ontario over the past 2 decades. While in Iqaluit in the 1990s, Ms. Dupuis was involved with the Chamber of Commerce and was part of the 5-person task force appointed by then Diane Minister Jane Stewart to oversee preparations and celebrations for the creation of Nunavut on April 1st, 1999. Her strong ties to the territory and broad knowledge of tourism in and out of Nunavut have served her well as Nunavut Tourism's CEO. Please welcome Ms. Dupuis.
Okay, I have sort of lost my voice the past couple of days, so hopefully this will last for the whole time. What I'm going to do this morning is give you a bit of an overview of Nunavut Tourism, a bit of an overview of our new tourism strategy, and talk about some of the exciting things that have happened in the tourism industry in Nunavut in the last couple of years. So Nunavut Tourism is a non-governmental organization funded by the Government of Nunavut Department of Economic Development and Transportation, our core funding, as well as great funding assistance from CanNor and Department of Environment and some other organizations. Our mandate is very simple and was revisited a couple of years ago by our board of directors, so it's very current and has been slightly changed. We are the designated marketing agency for Nunavut and are an industry association. It has been suggested at one point that membership in Nunavut Tourism become mandatory with the licensing of an operator in Nunavut. And the board of directors and myself have said no to that. We want to make sure that the organization maintains value for its members, which is something that is very critical to us. And we feel that that's happening. We have great flight discount plans for our members. Some of our members are in the room and they realize that traveling to Nunavut is one of the huge things that people kind of go, really? That's the price? So our airline partners have given us great discount plans for our members to bring clients in. We have a great liability insurance program, do training, and do marketing that members can participate in, co-op ads, and a number of other things. Our visitors basically fall into 3 categories. Pure tourists, people that come for a vacation. People that come visiting family and friends. A lot of times this is a neglected market, but when we have people come into Iqaluit visiting family, they often go out with outfitters and things, and that helps people expand their season and keep it going. And the other market, which is a big market for Nunavut, is business travel. And business travel almost falls into 2 categories. Those that travel on a regular basis, and those that come for meetings and conferences, and that's something I'll touch on in a little bit. These are some highlights from the 2011 exit survey. That was the last exit survey done for Nunavut. In 2011, tourism contributed $40 million to the Nunavut economy. That's, for a small industry sector, that's a significant amount. And the spending by tourists had increased from 2008. There's a very high satisfaction rate when people visit Nunavut, which is something we like to hear. When we get them there, they love their trip, and the operators we have do an amazing job. There are some possible improvements that people would like to see, easier transportation, some upgrades to infrastructure, that sort of thing. Tourism is an economic sector in Nunavut that all communities can participate in. If you're not close to a fishery or a mine deposit or something, you may not be able to participate in that sector. All communities have something different and can contribute to the tourism sector. Oops, I gotta hit the red button. Like the arts, people can be involved in tourism and still involved in the traditional economy, or even work at a mine. A lot of the mine employment in Nunavut is 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out. And we have some people that are doing some outfitting and things on their 2 weeks out. Tourism is a great way to show the culture and share the environment with visitors and the world, and people want to do that. And it's a great way to be able to still be in the traditional economy and do that. Excuse me. Over the last 4 years, we feel that we've been doing something right because Nunavut Tourism membership has more than tripled, with the majority of those new members being Nunavut-based businesses, which is what we want to see. Tourism in Nunavut is in a lot stronger place now than it has been in a long time. In May 2013, Nunatsiavut, a tourism strategy for Nunavut, passed the Legislative Assembly. This tourism was the last economic sector in Nunavut not to have a strategy for its development, and we do now. The strategy was a very collaborative effort and by a key group of stakeholders, including Nunavut Tourism, NTI, the Government of Nunavut, Department of Economic Development and Transportation, and Territorial Parks, Government of Canada, Canor, and Parks Canada were represented. The people around the table had, it sounds bad that we were all old, but had probably 100 years combined tourism experience in Nunavut, so the people in the room really knew what they were talking about. And the strategy was officially endorsed by the Government of Nunavut, NTI, and Nunavut Tourism. If you see the strategy online, and I'll give you the link for that in a few minutes, you will see that our board chair, NTI's president, and the then minister, now premier, signed off on the document. That this is a document that everybody has endorsed. It was also the first strategy that included a detailed action plan. And that wasn't just a list of things that had to be done. This is a detailed plan that says who's going to be the lead on something, who's going to support that lead, when something's going to be done, what's going to be done, and where the dollars are going to come from, which is a big key factor. This isn't a strategy that was based on pie-in-the-sky ideas that we're going to get $40 million injection from the government, because that's not going to happen. We were very realistic when we looked at this, and the plans that are based on realistic numbers from investment in tourism over the last few years. So what is in that plan are things that we should be able to achieve. And I'm very happy to say that the stakeholder group, we continue to meet on a regular basis and to ensure that the implementation of the plan is moving forward. This isn't going to be a plan that just got done and is sitting on a shelf and isn't going to go anywhere. So, let's talk about the strategy a little bit. The strategy was based on some overriding values and principles that were determined early in discussions. Things like respecting others, decisions made from discussion and consensus, working together, community involvement, cultural integrity, and the sustainability of the industry. For some of us at the table, this was a key. It wasn't about coming up with a way to get 50 new operators next year. It was a way of increasing the industry, have it grow, but also make sure that the industry that is there now is sustainable, so that when someone gets into the industry, they have what they need to continue. And that includes things like business aftercare and support for businesses as they go forward. The strategy was formed around 4 main pillars: legislation and regulation, and this includes things like a review of the Travel and Tourism Act. Currently, Nunavut is following the NWT Act that was grandfathered in 1999. The NWT have updated since then, Nunavut hasn't. So we have a few little wrinkles we need to work out. And simplifying the licensing process. This is something that we've heard right from every member across the industry, that is something that they would really like to see happen. And in a couple of years, one of the things under legislation and regulation that will also be done is a cruise ship management plan. Partnerships were important to make sure that everyone's working together. And that means not just groups like myself, Nunavut Tourism and the government or different government departments, but also encouraging members to work together to make more partnerships and figure out how the industry can work together as a whole. Attraction products and services includes things like product development, marketing, special event development, and meetings and conferences. In the strategy, Nunavut Tourism is being tasked with trying to attract meetings and conferences to Nunavut. We are not going to organize them. We have members that do the logistics. We are just going out to try and attract the meetings. And we're doing this in a very targeted way. We've done it in a targeted way over the last few years, aiming at national organizations that have members in Nunavut. And on a small scale basis, and we've had some great success. Even things like the Canadian Landscape Architects, which there are 2 members in Nunavut, they brought their national conference up a couple of years ago, and it was 120 people for a week, and that was a great boost for the economy. So we're going after meetings and conferences in a targeted way. We're not going after IBM and the Medical Association of Canada that we can't handle. But we are going after targeted groups. This summer we will be hosting the Aboriginal arm of the Canadian Law Society. We can't handle the whole Canadian Law Society, but we can handle a small sector of it. So that is something that is being worked on now and will make a big difference. The 4th pillar is education and training, and this includes a variety of things. Nunavut Art College has a certificate diploma program in tourism that will come online. All of the courses that were put together for this course, there's a number of people in this room that worked on putting this curriculum together, all are going to be done as modules, and the modules are standalone and can be offered in communities. Part of the tourism strategy includes over the next 4 or 5 years that by the last year, up to 5 modules per year will be offered in communities. I have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to speed up here. This graph sort of shows what visitors do when they come. Things like cultural activities, and for those of you that know me, I had to have a dog picture. Visiting parks and special places. This is one of the territorial parks. Soft or hard adventure. This is one of our cruise ship products, an excursion from the cruise ship. And Nunavut Tourism has also done our own quarter-by-quarter implementation plan to follow for the strategy to make sure that we're doing what needs to get done. So that's sort of the strategy in a nutshell, and I'll give you the website at the end of where you can find the strategy online. Over the last couple of years, there have also been some major developments in the industry. Some of our members have done major renovations and expansions of hotels in Pond Inlet, Pangnirtung, and Rankin Inlet. This is the newly renovated lobby of the Sinatarvik Hotel in Rankin, and an upcoming remodeling of the hotel in Repulse Bay is planned for this year. I believe it's this year. We also have new products and new cruise lines operating in Nunavut, and one of our members will be launching special affordable packages that are being aimed at upscale weekend travelers looking at something different to do, going into Iqaluit, and they're going to be quite affordable. The Ottawa market is ideally placed. Ottawa and Toronto were very close, so that's something that we're going after. We've also had a major emphasis on recreational sport fishing in the past couple of years, which is something that had been neglected for a number of years. This is a picture of Charlie, our mascot, which some of you may have already met, and Bob Azumi at a press event last year. People are also working together more on unique products. Some of our members have come together and are offering some great things, and them working together extends their business season and gives them a lot more opportunity. Iqaluit will also likely have a new conference center and hotel within the next 3 to 5 years. Our airline partners have added more flights to their routes and have bought new aircraft that makes travel a lot more comfortable and simple. So if you are looking for the tourism strategy, this is actually exactly where you'd find it. But the simple way to find it is you go to the Government of Nunavut website, to the Department of Economic Development and Transportation, and there's a link right on their homepage to the strategy. And I would encourage you all, if you haven't, to take a look at it. It's a great document, and it will give you an idea of what's really planned over the next 5 years. So that's tourism in a nutshell, and I probably have about 30 seconds left. So thank you, and I'll be happy to take questions at the end.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Our next presenter is the Honorable Mr. Johannes Lampe, Minister of Culture, Recreation and Tourism with the Nunatsiavut government. Minister Lampe was born in Ukak Bay. He's been a traditional hunter, fisherman, and trapper all of his life. He's also worked as a radio and TV producer and interpreter and translator. In May 2010, he was elected to the Nunatsiavut Assembly as the ordinary member for Nain and was subsequently appointed Minister of Culture, Recreation and Tourism. Minister Lampe is a champion of protecting, preserving, and presenting language and culture of Labrador's Inuit. Please welcome Minister Lampe.
Nakumik utungas tutauta tamani atawami unuttuit tamaunga katibayatu simatiluit tukahiyatultik hanuk inu hatigit pibarliamangata sibulimik takwa uhalautiginiakit hanuk pibarliamangata silakiyatuliginimmi Nunatsiavut. Good morning. I'd like to first of all thank the organizing committee for inviting me to speak at this session. Today I'd like to provide an overview of some of the tourism initiatives taking place in Nunatsiavut and the role our culture plays in ensuring visitors experience the many mysteries of our land. Nunatsiavut is a land of adventure and cultural discovery. Our communities live our Inuit culture every day through the land and through our stories. There are many experiences to discover and important sights to be seen. The very tagline of our tourism Nunatsiavut website pretty much sums up what Nunatsiavut can provide to visitors: adventures and mysteries of the Labrador Inuit. Nunatsiavut, which in English means our beautiful land, is home to 5 communities: Nain, our administrative capital; Hopedale, our legislative capital; Postville, Kativik, and Rigolet. Each of these communities best represent our living Inuit heritage and share many similarities that bind them together. But they are also unique based on their particular geographies and histories, and offer a slightly different perspective on where we come from and where we are going. The lands and seas of Nunatsiavut are the foundations of our communities. Our ancestors have always found everything they needed to survive on the land and in the sea around them, including food, medicines, shelter, clothing, and tools. Today, our communities rely on a number of modern conveniences for survival, but our relationship and respect for the land remains strong. Nunatsiavut is home to some breathtaking wild spaces comprising 72,520 square kilometers, roughly the same size as the entire province of New Brunswick. The majority of Nunatsiavut is pristine wild space. Rivers are fed by glaciers and animals can be found in abundance. Mainland Canada's highest mountains east of the Rockies are found in the Donut Mountains in the northern section of Nunatsiavut. The Donut Mountains are a very spiritual place for Inuit. Before the presence of Moravian missionaries, the Donut Mountains were a place where Inuit shamans would travel to communicate with spirit helpers. Shamans would invoke the spirits to assist with initiations or to acquire a certain power that was needed. The mountains represented a very strong connection to the Inuit spirit world. To this day, the Dungat Mountains remain a place of energy and power. Community members from Nunatsiavut and visitors from throughout the world all express a newfound sense of self when they leave the Dungat Mountains National Park that they did not bring with them. Operating as a remote camp, the Dungat Mountains Base Camp and Research Station is one of the best ways to experience the Dungat Mountains National Park. Inuit-owned and operated, the base camp is a hub of activity for visitors, Inuit elders, interpreters, bear guards, and international researchers. The camp is designed to create an intimate familiarity with the surrounding land, while also enjoying modern amenities such as hot showers and comfortable accommodations. You'll meet a variety of people in camp, many of which have ancestors that used to call the Dungat Mountains home. It's the perfect place from which to experience the Inuit way of life while exploring this pristine, breathtaking Inuit homeland. There are a variety of distinct ecological areas in Nunatsiavut, all of which are very sensitive due to thin soils, limited vegetation, and a harsh climate. There is an abundance of wild animals and plants that live on the lands and in the seas of Nunatsiavut. These plants and animals have always sustained our communities. This intimate knowledge of wildlife provides a great opportunity to take visitors out to view the wildlife of the region. Our culture as Inuit is celebrated throughout our communities. We honor the traditions and stories of our elders and look to our youth to see how our culture is adapting to new influences. The land and sea are central to our being. We hunt, fish, travel, and live with the lands and seas of Nunatsiavut. These remain a constant in our lives and bind us to the lives of our ancestors. Much of the culture you will experience while visiting Nunatsiavut relates to living closely with the wild spaces around us. There are many historic sites found within Nunatsiavut that are important to the history of Canada. These sites represent some of the most significant early interactions between the Labrador Inuit and Europeans. The term cultural tourism or culture tourism is the subset of tourism concerned with a region's culture, specifically the lifestyle and the history of the people, their traditions, and other elements that help shape their way of life. This form of tourism is becoming generally more popular than what is considered traditional tourism throughout the world and can play a significant role in developing Nunatsiavut. In an attempt to showcase our culture and history to the world, the Nunatsiavut government has been working very diligently to secure funding to establish a cultural center in name, to host exhibits which tell our story as Labrador Inuit. A focus on cultural programming will make Illuswa, as it will be called, a multi-generational gathering and sharing space. Illuswak in English means sad house. Illuswak with its unique features will become the centerpiece of the community of Nain, but also the focal point of Nunatsiavut's rich culture and heritage. While there are still some obstacles that need to be overcome, particularly with respect to funding, we are still hopeful the center will become a reality within the next couple of years. Once completed, Nunatsiavut will be an economic driver for all of Nunatsiavut and create long-term employment. It will provide office space for tenants, a craft development center, meetings facilities, a gift shop, and cafe. It will be a symbol of the potential for the region, will be an influential economic development tool for Nunatsiavut, particularly with respect to tourism. There are plans for the creation of an endowment fund to find and engage major corporations, sponsors, and foundations to participate with and support Nunatsiavut by providing financial resources to assist long-term efforts. This endowment fund will be announced once construction begins. A significant amount of money has already been invested into this project. There is no turning back now. In partnership with the Tungat Mountains National Park, the new cultural center will contribute to Nunatsiavut as an exclusive travel destination appealing to visitors seeking rich cultural and natural experiences. As I noted earlier, there are many experiences to discover and important sites to be seen, including the Hebron National Historic Site. The Hebron Mission Station was established in the 1830s as part of the expansion and religious missionizing by the Moravians of the Inuit in northern Labrador. The station provided religious instruction to the local Inuit and was also an educational, commercial, and medical center. The architecture used to build the Hebron Station is particularly representative of the Moravian architectural design style, a Germanic flavor with a steep, elongated roof punctuated by small dormer windows. Hebron is located above the tree line, so the mission house would have stood out quite prominently from the surrounding landscape. The Hebron Station officially closed in 1959 when the provincial government and the Moravian Mission determined that supplying a remote location such as Hebron was not economical. The government store was shut down, which led to a mass relocation of residents to communities further south in Nunatsiavut. Much anguish and shock was felt by the residents of Hebron at this decision. The relocation is still considered a traumatic event for many that live in the various Nunatsiavut communities. Today, the buildings at Hebron remain abandoned, with rhubarb continuing to grow where the Moravian gardens used to be. The Hebron Station is identified as one of the most historically significant mission-built structures still standing in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. The Nunatsiavut government is actively working to restore the buildings at Hebron so as to preserve them for future generations. Each year, hundreds of visitors from all over the world tour the Hebron Mission Complex by speedboat, cruise ship, or by helicopter. During the summer month, an Inuit family lives at Hebron, greeting visitors as they arrive, providing interpretive tours. The Hopedale Mission Complex was the third mission established by the Moravian missionaries along the Labrador coast. Founded in 1782, the mission was established at a seasonal Inuit encampment called Apitu, which translates in English to the place of wells. The Moravians named their post Hoppental in commemoration of their first missionizing attempts in Labrador in 1752 that ended in the death of the missionaries. Hoppental translates to Hopedale from German, which remains today the name for Nunatsiavut's legislative capital. Many structures were added to the complex, including the mission house, the church, a reserve storehouse, dead house, and an oil and salt storehouse, which is no longer standing. The detached mission building, built in the 18th century, is the earliest surviving Moravian structure on the Labrador coast. The Hopedale Mission Complex was a critical supply and trading post for the Inuit, built along the rocky barren shoreline. The Moravian presence in Hopedale is a striking sight to be seen and is a major draw for visitors. We have developed an adaptive reuse master plan which will retain and build upon the historical and cultural values of the Hopedale complex. By being a modern and safe place, the mission will become a place of learning and spiritual renewal, a place to demonstrate a renewed physical, economic, and cultural growth, a practical demonstration of a balanced and sustainable culture and economic core for the community of young and old, and for visitors. On a practical basis, the space will be used to generate revenues which in turn will enhance sustainability. Tourism also plays a big part in our communities as well. The southernmost Nunatsiavut community of Rigolet is adjacent to the proposed Mealy Mountains National Park, which contains a stunning array of pristine landscapes, vegetation, and wildlife, as well as cultural landscapes. It is our hope that Rigolet will become Nunatsiavut's gateway to the park, providing a variety of interpretive and other services to visitors. The Rigolet Inuit Community Government has developed a 5-year tourism strategy, one that will incorporate the proposed national park. Rigolet is also currently home to the second longest boardwalk in the world. Plans are in the works to expand the boardwalk to make it the longest in the world. There are also plans to recreate a traditional Inuit village at the end of the boardwalk. The Inuit community of Postville is steeped in trapping and trading history, first known as the Post, because of the Hudson Bay Company's early presence in the area. The view of Hebron Bay is inspiring from any vantage point in the community. For those that want to go higher, explore the views from Postville. Post Hill, 1,500 feet up. Some of the finest rivers for Atlantic salmon are found in the area, and there are great resources to learn about salmon conservation efforts at the nearby English River counting fence. The community of Makhovik is also steeped in history. Moravian missionaries first tried to settle in the Makhovik area in 1752 under the leadership of John Christian Earhart. The Moravians sailed from Europe to the North American continent with hopes of establishing relations with the local Inuit populations, landing in a place called Fort Spite, also known as Nisbet Harbor. The Makhovik area was the first permanent settlement that the Moravian missionaries built in Labrador, from which to spread their message. The Inuit and their ancestors had occupied the region for thousands of years, and relations with the Moravian missionaries were strained at first, leading to the settlement at Fort Spite to be abandoned. Makhovik flourished over the years due to the rich fishing grounds nearby, attracting settler, Moravian, and Inuit populations. There is so much more I can say about my homeland, but there's no easy way to describe the beautiful landscapes and awesome outdoor adventures. Nunatsiavut has so much to offer, but our special treasure is our people and our culture. Nakome.
I believe there's a brief NFB film. Is that to show now? Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Lampe. I'd like to ask our final presentation to be loaded. We'll be hearing from Ms. Catherine Pinard, Assistant Director of Lands and Environment for the Kativik Regional Government. Originally from Montreal, Catherine is a biologist with a Master of Sciences degree in Wildlife and Habitat Management. She worked for over 10 years with Yukon First Nations and Nunatsiavut from the Northwest Territories, developing and coordinating harvest monitoring programs. After she moved back to Quebec, she started working with the Kativik Regional Government as a park planner and is now the Assistant Director for Lands and Environment section of KRG's Renewable Resources Department. Please join me in welcoming Catherine Pinard.
Well, good morning, and thank you for giving me the chance to talk about Nunavik parks as a way to promote regional development in the Nunavik region. So to put you in the context, Nunavik is the northern third of the Quebec province. It's a territory of about 500,000 square kilometers. There's 14 Inuit villages in Nunavik, none of which are linked to the south with road access or between themselves. So it's a pretty remote region with challenges in terms of inviting or having visitors coming to visit our parks. The Kativik Regional Government was established in 1978 following the signing of the James Bay and Northern Quebec Agreement. It provides services and acts as a municipality for the territory that's not inside the municipal boundaries of the northern villages. So this is a list of the sectors in which the Kativik Regional Government provides services. The Kativik Regional Government is run by a council of 17 members, one representative of each of the 14 northern villages, the chief of the Naskapi Nation, a president, and a vice president. When it first started, the KRG had about 6 employees with a total budget of $66,000 per year. Now the KRG employs over 400 employees, half of which are Inuit beneficiaries, and it has a budget now of $145 million. So the Nunavik Parks is part of the Renewable Resources, Environment, Lands and Parks Department, for which I work right now. In 2002, there was a partnership agreement that was signed between the Quebec government, the KRG, and Kativik Corporation, which is responsible to protect the rights of Inuit beneficiaries of the James Bay Agreement. So this agreement was to promote economic development in Nunavik, and a network of Nunavik parks was identified as a way to promote tourism and provide local opportunity for development. Later that year, another specific agreement that was concerning the development of parks in Nunavik was signed between the Quebec government and the KRG. It gave a mandate, a very clear mandate to the KRG to plan and develop parks in cooperation with the Quebec government, and also to operate the parks when they're created. In southern Quebec, the way it works, the Quebec government is creating the parks, and then after that, the operations of the park is given to a public organization called CEPAC. In the north, KRG acts like CEPAC and manages the park, but we also have a very important role in planning and developing the parks as well. Following this agreement, it was the signing of the agreement, it was then integrated to another agreement called the Sivonirmut, which is a block funding agreement that defines all the mandates of the KRG and provides funding to operate, well, to realize all these mandates, including the operations of the park. So our park network at the moment has 3 established parks that you can see in red. So in the north, we have Pinard Park that was established in 2004, followed by Courgeois Park in the Torngat Mountains to the east that was established in 2009. And just recently, we added a 3rd park called Tursuyuk in the Richmond Gulf area. And this park covers 26,000 square kilometers. So it's the largest park in East North America. We also have 2 park projects on which we started working. The one to the east is called Ulitanuyalik on the George River. It should be created hopefully in 2014. The other park project is the Leaf Bay project. and should be created hopefully in the next couple of years. There's also 3 other park reserves that you see in yellow. These parks are maybe developed in the future, but no work has started on these projects yet. So I'll talk briefly about how parks are created in the north, what's the process, and how the communities are really involved throughout all these steps. So when we have a park project, the first step is to present it to the adjacent communities, so all the communities that are close to the area that will be protected. So we go to the communities and present to the representatives what it means to have a national park close to their community, what are the benefits, what are the constraints, and it also gives the chance to the local people to ask questions in terms of how it may impact their traditional activities or their harvesting rights. If the communities give support to the park project, then we establish a working group made of representatives of the northern villages, the landholding corporations, Kativik, the KRG, and the Quebec government. There's also outfitters that could be invited to the working group meetings if their operation could be impacted by the park project. So the working group meets every few months. And their first mandate is to establish the study area. So the study area is where we will conduct all the studies that we need in order to draw a nice portrait of the region. And in this case, this is the Leaf Bay project. So you see in green is the park reserve. So this is an area that's temporarily protected. And the black line shows the study area. So there's a lot of adjacent territory that was added to the study area by the working group because people from the community felt that it was important to protect or at least to study those areas to maybe eventually include them in the park project. Once we have a study area, we gather all the information that we can that already exists on the plants, the wildlife, the history of the region, the archaeology, geology, geomorphology, climate, hydrology, everything that we can find, and we also include traditional knowledge. When we're missing some information, we do field work, so we invite specialists to do inventories with us, and at this stage the community is also very much involved, so we hire a liaison agent to help us with the logistics of organizing the field work. And we also hire people to help us with transportation. We hire camps, boats, and other equipment. Once the field work is done, we gather all the information and then summarize it in a document called a status report produced by the KRG. It highlights all the important findings and also the important interests or interesting interests of the region or the important elements. Meanwhile, the Quebec government produces another document called the Provisional Master Plan that will also draw a general portrait of the region and talk about, following the recommendations of the working group, it will propose boundaries for the future park as well as zoning activities that will be offered to the eventual visitors and gives a general idea of where the infrastructure might be built inside the park. The KRG also hire independent consultants to do impact studies. So there's 2 types of studies. One is the environmental and social impact study, and the other one is the economic study. So all these documents are then made available to the public, and later a public hearing is held. There was actually 2 public hearings. One is done by the Quebec government under the Parks Act, and the other one is the Kativik Environmental Quality Commission that organizes a public hearing. Both hearings can also be held at the same time, and it provides a chance for the local people or anybody interested in the park project to provide comments and voice their opinion or even ask questions to the promoter. Following the public hearings, the KQC will make a decision if the park project should move forward and under which conditions. So it presents a report to the Quebec government, who can then issue a certificate of authorization if the project is approved, and the CA will list all the conditions that were suggested by the KQC. Finally, we need approval from Cabinet, and then a change is made to the park's regulations. Finally, the park is created. and a clear mandate as well as funding is added to the Sivut agreement so that the KRG can now operate the park. We then start planning the infrastructure. So in the villages adjacent to the park, there will be a visitor center. There could be shelters built in the park as well as a road to access the park from the community, and landing strip when it's not possible to go by road. Finally, we hire people to manage the park. That means that one director, some park wardens, administrative technicians, and visitor experience agent. All these employees are Inuit beneficiaries except for the visitor experience agent in most cases. Then the working group is replaced by a harmonization committee that will be responsible to review research projects and also give directions in the park operation and make sure that the activities of the visitors are not creating any conflict with the traditional activities and harvesting activities. There's also a lot of planning exercises done to plan conservation, education, as well as emergency business plan, community plan, research plan. So lots of planning is done following the creation. So in terms of economic benefits, before the creation of the park, there's obviously punctual opportunities when we have meetings in the community. So in terms of lodging the people that are coming for the meeting and transportation, but also, as I mentioned, when we do field work, we hire a liaison agent, bear monitors that are coming with us in the parks, and all the boat and equipment and camp rentals. And then once the park is created, there's permanent jobs, as I mentioned before, so it represents 7 to 9 jobs per park. These are permanent jobs, but there's also punctual contracts, such as for the bear monitors. There could also be possibilities for outfitters to offer fishing and ecotourism activities. And another good example of opportunity is the infrastructure. In the case of Kativik, for example, this past summer we were building a shelter, and all the material was brought to the village with the sea lift the summer before. And all the material had to be transported from the community of Kativik to the building site where the shelter was constructed. So that represented over 120 trips by skidoo. So we hired a lot of local people to help us with moving all this building material. And it's very unfortunate that Jessie Barron was supposed to come to this conference and present this project and actually talk about her experience as a park employee, but she was not able to come due to a blizzard in their community. And I talked a lot about economic benefits for when the parks are created, but there's also a lot of other benefits that are maybe not economic in nature, but that are good positive impact in the region. So if we think about the fact that students have a chance to visit those parks and spend time on the land or be in contact with scientists while they're doing their research. We can talk also about cross-cultural experience, both for the people in the villages and for the visitors coming to visit the parks and be in contact with the Inuit culture. And finally, obviously, conservation and knowledge acquisition that we can do in the planning stages, but also following the creation of the park. So I'd like to thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about Nunavik parks. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to talk about each park individually and talk to you about the packages that we offer, but we'll be at the KRG booth this afternoon, so if you're interested to find out more or to ask me some questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Catherine. I'll ask if you have questions to please come to the microphone in the center of the room, and we'll open the floor to questions. And I'll also encourage you to visit the booths of all of our speakers today in the trade show this afternoon so you can learn more about the regions that they represent for tourism. Can we get the floor mic turned on?
Hello? Okay. Good morning, Cedar Swan with Adventure Canada. First of all, thank you to all of our guests for being here this morning and giving us some of your time. I'd like to commend you on the research and strategy development in quality product and investment in people that you're all making in your various regions. They're all really important foundations to a strong, sustainable industry and tourism. My question is towards branding and promotion of the product. I know one of the experiences that we've had in our company, and we've seen through various regions, is when there tends to be a momentum and real development towards tourism and a lot of excitement in the local regions, and that doesn't materialize as quickly as we might hope. There can often be some disappointment and, in the long term, even some resentment towards tourism as an industry and those that are doing, the select few that are sort of doing well in it. And so my question is twofold. Is there a plan for sort of a co-branding between the three regions represented here to sort of put forth we are Canadian Arctic and subarctic regions, and we're open for tourism. If so, what is the plan for going forward to some of our national organizations and advocating for the needs that I would suggest the Arctic and subarctic regions have that are quite different from other regions within Canada? For instance, TIAC, CTC, and some of the other agencies that I know are developing interesting tourism plans for Canada, but perhaps focusing on emerging markets and strategies that are less relevant to Northern Canada.
For Nunavut, we have already done sort of co-marketing with the NWT in Yukon under the brand Canada's North. You've probably seen the TV commercials and things. And we're planning on continuing that. We have never necessarily looked at branding the three regions, but from a TIAC, the Tourism Industry Association of Canada point of view, Canada's North, along with these jurisdictions, have gone to TIAC and said that they need to form a Northern Council advocacy group, whatever they want to call it, because our needs are considerably different than the rest of Canada's. And how TIAC works is every year they take on 2 or 3 main issues. And in the past couple of years, it's been more landing slots at international airports for planes from Brazil and China, which has nothing to do with any of us, and better cross-border border crossings for vehicles going into the U.S. Again, nothing to do with any of the North. And that Northern Working Group with TIAC also includes Newfoundland and some of the maritime provinces. So there is that sort of thing going on. With the CTC, Canada's North, and I know Northern Quebec and Newfoundland and Manitoba and Saskatchewan, we have been advocating for the CTC to actually consider promoting fishing and hunting, which is something that they have never done, which are major activities for all of us. And we are hoping at a marketing meeting on February 18th in Vancouver that they will be announcing their strategy that they're planning on doing that.
Cedar. We as a Nunatsiavut, we have looked very closely with the branding. As Labrador Inuit, we want to tell the world of who we are and where we come from. And as Labrador Inuit, people or the world has a right to know about who we are and where we are. And so we take that work quite seriously, and being a Canadian and having 4 Inuit regions, the whole world does not really know which region is which. And as Labrador Inuit, we take that branding work very seriously, and will continue to do so.
Yeah, and in Nunavik, we're still a pretty new park network, so we're still in the process of developing that and working in partnership with the other parks in the north For example, Courgeois Park has a common boundary with the Torngat Parks. So obviously we work together, but in terms of marketing, sometimes we have an issue between Nunavik and Nunavut. People are confusing the two terms. But certainly, I think in the future we'll be trying to work together with the other organizations as well.
Thank you. We have time for another question from the floor.
Hi, my name is Astrid and I'm with the Government of Greenland. And I have a question for Ms. Colleen Dupuis from Nunavut Tourism. Could you maybe elaborate a little on tariffs and taxing on tourism? Because it's so expensive to travel in the north that if you put on tariffs and taxes, then you might exceed the tourists' willingness to pay. So what is the optimal tariff structure to still ensure a tax revenue for the local government?
Well, we're very fortunate in Nunavut that we have no sales tax, so there isn't that sort of thing. Right now, our airports don't even have landing fees. So we don't have anything like that right now that impedes, other than the high cost of getting there. And it's something that we are very cognizant of and are working with our communities and are strongly suggesting, like for the cruise industry, some communities have brought up that they would like to implement a landing fee for the boat in addition to fees that the cruise line would pay for performances or something. And talking with the industry, which we have a very good working relationship with, we need to make sure that what a community is going to do is going to be agreeable to the industry. Because you can say that you want to put on a $1,000 landing fee, but then if no boat's going to come there, it's not going to serve any purpose. So we're working very closely to make sure that anything that does happen will be acceptable to industry so that it doesn't put another impediment on the industry. And right now we don't have a lot of those. We're very fortunate. I'm guessing perhaps with our new airport that's coming online in 2017, there may be some small landing fees. But right now we don't have any of those things that a lot of other jurisdictions have to deal with.
Thank you very much. I'm going to conclude our session this morning. I'd like to first thank our sponsors, the Nunatsiavut government and Nunatsiavut group of companies. And I particularly like to thank our speakers for informing us about the tourism development going on in each of their regions, Ms. Colleen Dupuis, Minister Lampe, and Catherine Pinard. I have a small gift to give to each of you to show our thanks. And again, I encourage you all to visit their booths in the trade show this afternoon. Thank you very much.